Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Just a Thought podcast, episode 15. And I'm in a somber mood because this podcast is going to be wonderful. It's a very spiritual conversation with a very intelligent woman, Ebony Tutora, who is the CEO of Ebony Ivory Consulting, as well as having a website called Queens Recognize Queens. She is a woman who's mixed race, who has a very diverse and dynamic background, which has led to her now being a personal life coach. And she sort of is someone who inspires others to become better versions of themselves daily. And I'm telling you right now, it's a different vibe. And I use that word deliberately because she loves to use the word vibe and vibrations and frequency. This podcast is a different vibe from anyone I've done before. And it will inspire and uplift you if you watch this podcast. It's long, but it's worth it. Please go ahead and enjoy the show. Learn from this woman. Listen to what she has to say and enjoy the show. Just a Thought podcast, episode 15. Ebony, thank you for being on this podcast. Just a Thought. Hey, Ebony, thank you for joining my podcast. I cannot believe I have you on here. I feel honored and blessed to have someone like yourself on here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so I got the connection to your profile as well as your website from a mutual friend, Joe Becker. So shout out to Joe and thank you for connecting us.
Yes, thank you. Definitely.
Yeah. So once I got connected with you, I went on and looked at your website, and I know your company, and stop me if I'm wrong, is called Queens Recognize Queens. Now, tell me a little bit about Queens Recognize Queens and what it's about.
Yeah, so it pretty much stemmed out of just my own personal life experiences. And if I get this math right, probably about 12 years ago, 13 years, I knew I was meant to work with women. I just didn't know how. So one of the biggest things, there's a couple things that led to the creation of the name. The first thing was when growing up, my mother's mom always kind of represented the queen type of woman. Like, she was very dignified. She had integrity. She was very faith driven, not really religious, but very faith driven. So I have like a praying grandmother, like a grandmother who's going to pray for me before anything else. So that's number one. Number two, I grew up with only brothers. So for me, I always felt like I missed out on the catty part of like being a woman. Like, not to say I don't still have female traits. I'm a woman, but I never indulged in the cattiness of, like comparing myself to other women, feeling jealous about them. And, once I had my daughter, I was able to see women it just brought up a new light. When you're a teenager, it's one thing. When you're a young adult, and then once I was a mom, I was like, wow, like women are really just nasty to each other. And what is this thing where I'm able to just see a woman? Like, it's kind of like, if I walk past you down the street and you see me and you just say hi. And people are so not used to that type of connection. People would typically say to me, like, do you know that person? I'm like, no. So for me, it was like, oh, well, if I see a woman and she says hi to me, she must recognize that I'm a queen. And I recognize that she's a queen. And then it's just mutual. And pretty much that kind of birthed the brand itself, because I personally wanted to connect with women on a deeper level. I had moved to upstate New York. I was living in New York City, and I just had a really decent amount of friends where we could talk about God. We could talk about like deep thoughts and it wasn't weird, So to come back to upstate New York and, everyone's like, do you want to party? Do you want to go drink? And I'm just like, that's all y'all do? Like, y'all do nothing else? And I grew up out here, but I left when I graduated high school. So I hadn't experienced this area for some time. So to come back and to see that lifestyle, I felt lost. I felt lost of that connection. So I was like, well, how do I create that connection? I'm just going to have to do it and host my own events and curate that vibe. So that's kind of how that developed. And then over time, it started out as an empowerment brand. And then as I probably about maybe over a year in, I was like, wow, I'm not really sharing with people my experiences that shaped my healing and that shaped, just who I am as a person. So it kind of just, it has been evolving over time, really.
Okay. So
Yeah.
am I getting the gist right? As far as a queen, what is your idea of a queen? Because I'm sensing a little bit, and please stop me if I'm wrong. I'm sensing a little bit of self-confidence and a sort of
Yeah.
a lack of insecurity, if there's such a thing,
Mm-hmm.
in someone who's a queen, someone who's self-assured and knows what they're about
Mm-hmm.
and is in command of situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you historically you think about it, I mean, the queens were really the backbone to the king in many ways, and very decisive, very dignified. They had morals, they had integrity, just values. You have to have values, and I think our generation, so many men and women really lack values. And if you don't have values, you don't have direction. You
Right.
cannot have direction if you don't know who you are.
Right.
So you absolutely have to be confident. You absolutely have to have dignity, and you have to love yourself. I
Yeah.
really stand on self-love and knowing who I am and just being confident in that, very unapologetic in that. As they say, do no harm but take no shit. To me, that's a queen. Is that
Yeah.
I can be firm in who I am. And the other thing about a queen is the queen makes decisions not for herself but for her people.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
She didn't make decisions because she wanted to be selfish. She made decisions in the benefit of her people. So I feel like as a woman, it's my job. Me personally, I don't operate under anybody else's beliefs, but my personal belief is I have to pass the torch. So if I learn, hey, as a woman, you probably, as a girl, try not to do this and try not to do that. It's my job to pass that torch on to younger girls, to other women, because as you learn, you should teach so that people aren't making those mistakes and they can discover who they are and just awaken to that divinity.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And being a black woman, and is that sort of something that sort of propels you towards sort of empowering women and black women in particular? Because I'll tell you right now, I do honestly feel like black women in America, especially, are sort of the unsung heroes and some of the hardest
Mm-hmm.
working people. Because I don't even know if anybody really looks out for black women in general
Mm.
in this country other than fellow black women and so on like that. So
Right.
I love the fact that even just the name of Queens Recognized Queens shows me that we don't have to tear each other down. We can sort
Mm-hmm.
of build each other up. We don't have to
Yeah.
have that crabs in the barrel mentality, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that really really annoys me whenever I do see it. But I do
Mm-hmm.
love the platform and the name of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that definitely drives me. I think, my mother's white, my father's black, but you don't have a little bit of black in you and anyone consider you white. Like that's just
Yeah,
what it is. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? The white community's not like, yeah, she's totally white. Yeah, we
yeah,
love
yeah,
her.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? They're not opening their arms, like, and that's just not. I mean, I have a very diverse audience nonetheless, and actually
Okay.
most of my audience is white, and they just don't, they engage, but not as I get more engagement with black females. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, I definitely do target a lot of my messaging to them, a lot of my imagery. I have a line out, and it's like the reason why is, like you said, the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. And black women are especially right now, they already got the men. They already have the black men. The incarceration rate represents that, okay? Black men are already, like, they already did that. They already did the propaganda, the messaging and all that. That's already happened for
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Since slavery, right?
Right.
I mean, even the dynamic of the man not being in the household comes from slavery. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And we still perpetuate that. We don't know our history, so we don't know. But and now the messaging, a lot of the messaging is for black women, and you have different artists. And not to say I don't listen to different things, but as I've been expanding my knowledge, and I have some really great friends that kind of put me on to different topics that I don't consider, and especially having a platform where people listen to me, I feel like it's my duty to speak on that. So, I mean, black women, I feel like are very highly targeted right now, and it's just like, um, you know, as far as the messaging, just It's not. We think it's like we're being represented, but we don't think about what the little girls are seeing.
Right.
Right? What are the little girls seeing when they watch Cardi B? What are the
Right.
little girls seeing when they hear Savage? You see what I'm saying? So we don't
Yeah.
really think about the future generation. We're just like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, girl, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely show up to represent Black women. That definitely drives me. Because more than anything, in the Black community, Black women suffer the most from having high self-esteem, from feeling
Mm.
worthy, from
Yeah.
feeling just from the gate. Like, we got to relearn it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm
Yeah.
speaking, I know my experience. I know that I have a different experience because of the color of my skin. Now, if I was dark chocolate like you, like you look like my father. My father is your color. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
know that if I was your color, my experience would be very different. I
Yeah.
know that already.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I definitely see it. I've worked in a lot of different areas where, you know, you see it in a lot of my clients. You know, you have to work backwards with, you know, teaching them just their value at the beginning. And to me, I've always seen that Black women definitely, we have to relearn self-confidence. We have to relearn value, and the things that we experience in our communities, I mean, are just insane compared to some other communities. Even just what our mothers might perpetuate onto us, our grandmothers, if we don't have, you know, grandmothers that are aware of even their own potential and worth. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that definitely drives me for sure. For sure. It's one
Okay.
of the things.
I love it. I love it. And just truth be told, with myself, you know, I'm definitely obviously a Black man, but originally I'm from the Caribbean. I'm from South
Mm-hmm.
America, and where I'm from,
Heard the
where I was
accent.
born. Oh, you can hear it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Sounds a little Irish. It's funny.
Yeah. Well, my last name is Bailey, so
Mm.
the guy that owned me was Irish. I'll put
Mm.
it.
Wow.
But you know, where I'm from, a lot of people, most of the population is Black or Indian. The Black
You from
population, obviously,
Guyana?
Guyana, yes, and
Mm.
that's throughout most of the Caribbean.
Mm.
Um, the Black population are ancestors of slaves, and the Indian population is indentured laborers. So
Mm.
where I'm from, just for the audience and so on. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. You're obviously an educated woman here, but for the audience, um, where I am from, racism still exists, even
Definitely.
though they are not white people there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want anybody to think that I'm sort of saying that, or you know, anything of the sort. Like it's a problem systemic to a certain race. It's a human condition. It's a human
Mm-hmm.
problem where we sort of become tribalistic and
Mm.
so on. With all that said, like I said, just to clarify, it's wonderful to have a woman of color who represents you know, sort of a empowerment of women, Black women, and I'm
Mm.
sure women of all races.
Definitely.
Um, so how are you? How have you and your family been holding up during this pandemic here?
This was actually really perfect for us, really, to be honest, because I made the decision last year to leave an 11-year relationship. So it gave me that ability to slow down
Mm,
and to regroup. And, you know, there's just a lot of things I had to do. Not that obviously I would have still got them done nonetheless, but um, I definitely always see everything as a blessing, you know, so I try not to feed into the fear and, you know, just the mainstream stuff and just focus
yeah,
on, okay, what blessing is this for us? And it really was a blessing for us because we've been going and going and going and going and going.
yeah,
Um, so it just really allowed me to just spend more time with them, and especially going through a transition like that with children, all, you know, they're his children.
yeah,
You know, just to be able to let them process their emotions and be home with them and, you know, just have that time for us. So we're
yeah.
doing good. We're doing good. We're good.
That's good. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And have you? Are you someone that works from home as well, or are you still out in the field?
No, I work from home. Prior to this, I mean, most of my work was contractual, like with the school. So that did kind of changed things to a degree. And then I had some other stuff in the work with some more schools, but I'm basically a home-based business.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. What's the significance of that poster behind you there?
That's
Healing
actually a
energy.
vision board.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a vision board from that's for 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have, you really can't see this one, but I'll just tilt that up.
Oh, I love the imagery.
So so it's so funny because that one there, I just think sometimes we don't realize why we resonate with certain things. And I had bought that photo from a woman I was a director for a nonprofit a couple years ago, and I just loved her work. I thought it was so good. And this is when like Black women were like being in a pop, where everyone's like, oh my God, Black women are actually magical. And the whole Black female empowerment movement kind of started. And when I started my movement, so I remember seeing this photo and I was like, oh my God, I love that. And then when I looked at it, it's so funny because she's holding her necklace like this. And when I was a kid, like my mother used to send me on these excursions to like go get her husband, to like go to stores and like return stuff for her. Like I had a crazy childhood.
Yeah.
And I used to have a cross, and I used to be so afraid because her husband was like a drug addict, so he lived in like this area of like drug addicts and like pedophiles. It was just scary. And I just remember I would always hold on to that necklace.
Yeah.
So it hit me one day. I was like staring at it, and I was like, that's why I like that photo, because she's holding on to it the same way I used to just hold that cross and like rub it like, Lord, just protect me. Obviously, I have been very protected, but so that's the vision board. And this picture stuck out to me because that to me just represented, they have crowns on. But that represented, the connection that I have with women and my calling. Like I've known it's been my calling, and it really came to fruition with the brand. So yeah, that's my vision board.
That's great, and I cannot wait to delve more into that calling with you. But let me backtrack a little bit. Let's go back in time. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
My father and his family, they're from New York City. And my mother's from Allentown, and her family's from Allentown, Bethlehem, kind of Pennsylvania area. And my father was in the Navy, and then he moved my mother to upstate New York. So when we moved up here, I probably was like around 2-ish. So I pretty much grew up in upstate New York. And then once I graduated high school, I lived in the city for some years. But yeah, that's where I'm from.
Okay, so you're like a New Yorker. Your blood sort of is kind of like New Yorker in a sense. But I get the sense your heart isn't really here. Is your heart here?
No. No, I don't know where. I really love Florida. I've been having my eyes on St. Pete. Obviously, I think it's so funny with life and circumstances, you just don't know. And obviously, I mentioned being separated, so it's like, I want to consider the kids, but I just don't, I just know that this is not my home, So I'm going to visit once the gates open back up for travel and things are safe. I'm definitely going to go to St. Pete this summer. Hopefully summer is good, or whenever it opens. If it's the summer, fall, winter, I'm going. Just to see. I've definitely been to Miami. I love Miami. I don't think that's a place to raise a family. But I definitely want to travel and just see what's home for me.
Yeah. And obviously home is where the heart is. So where you can find your heart, that definitely would be called home. And and I know you touched on it a little bit. So please expand a little bit more on your upbringing, and sort of, touch on some of the positives, but also some of the things that you weren't necessarily happy with growing up upstate here. And I know you said some time downstate and so on.
I mean, I think the positive. So I'll touch on the positive first, because I know for my mom, my mom and my dad both watch and listen to what I do, and I don't, my intention was never to belittle them in any way, but we have to speak about our stories, and I have a quote that I live by that says, if you didn't want to be a part of my story, then you should have behaved better. It's just, it is what it is, and if I have to I'm telling it what it is. I'm not making anything up, but I grew up basically seeing two different lives, so the positive was, my mom's family and somewhat my dad's family. Like my dad's family is pretty decent too. You know, we're police officers, firefighters. Like we come from really great people. My mom's family, my grandfather was pretty well off. So I grew up like going to Pennsylvania. We'd visit him. He would take us to New Jersey. We'd stay in the Taj Mahal, like the highest floors, and we just had such great experiences. I spend my summers with my aunt, and her husband owns a camp for inner city youth to teach them how to hunt and to fish. So I was introduced to that. Like I know how to shoot a gun. I've been hunting quite a bit. I actually went hunting way back. I think it was about the end of 2016. I have 3 brothers. You know, I think, you know, my mom did the best that she could. When I look back at some of the things, you know, we definitely sat at the table as a family, which as I got older and mingled with other adults, and you're like, okay, we're going to sit at the table and we eat dinner. And people are like, oh, no, let's just go sit on the floor and watch TV. And I'm like, who raised you? Like, no, this is like integral, you know? So she definitely did her best. And she definitely, I mean, she came from great parents and great foundations, you know? So that was some of the good. Definitely some of the good was being able to not just see only poverty.
Right.
You know? So, I mean, the bad was I was living in poverty. You know, we did live month to month. I did see domestic violence. I did see drug use. I did see drug dealing. My brother began hustling. I think he was like 13, maybe 14. I think 13. When I was 15, I would have done anything to leave my house. I think I learned psychologically, I felt like my mother targeted me because I was the only girl, and energetically, like, she could pick on me. You know what I'm saying? She was used to being in a domestic violence relationship and walked over by the men. Even my brothers were like very disrespectful to her to a degree, you know, and I was always really like meek, and I'd be like, hey, what do you need? And, you know, I just was like very mild mannered, and I was a really good child. And I think she just took a lot of her anger out on me because she like projected onto me a lot. So by the time I hit 15, I just met this guy, and that was it. Like, he basically just like took me under his wing, and, you know, he was like a really big hustler. And I mean, that just led to domestic violence and just seeing crazy things, being involved in crazy things. And then experiencing some traumatic situation with him. But I always knew as a child, your childhood is going to affect your future. God showed that to me because I used to pray a lot for wisdom. I had a friend who her mother was an evangelist. So I spent a lot of my time. I started really going to church when I was like 13. My mother was a Catholic, so we used to go to Catholic church. That was always like super weird to me. And then she got married, and then her husband took us to Pentecostal churches, which I was like, oh, I like this. Like, they're like praising the Lord. And
I have a little experience with Pentecostal churches.
Yeah, it was a little weird, you know, because when people start falling out and catching the Holy Ghost, you're like,
you're like, what's going on right now?
Kid.
Speaking in tongues, you know?
Like, right. You're like, are they okay? Like, is everybody okay? You know? But it definitely gave me a variation of roots. And nonetheless, my grandmother has always been very spiritual in the sense of, like, she always spoke life over me. You know, and then once I became like 13, I started going to church, and I prayed for wisdom. And I remember God showing me, like, you need to be a steward of your childhood because it's going to affect you for the rest of your life. But don't let it affect you. Like, see it, but be a third person to it. Don't ingest it. So, you know, and then at the age of 15, I remember enrolling in a psychology class because that was one of the classes I could take for like an elective in high school. And that I just immediately clung to it because it was like, oh my God, this is what I experienced at home. So if I understand them, I won't be so depressed. I was really depressed as a teen. I tried to commit suicide, and I just could not understand why God would give me those parents. I was like puzzled. Like, I had great grandparents and aunts and stuff, but they were so far away. It was like I didn't have people to really run to. So that's why at the age of 15, when I have this opportunity to date this older guy who's giving me everything, I have my own apartment, my own car, like all these things that I wouldn't have had on my own.
Perhaps he was some sort of like a surrogate father in a sense too, a surrogate,
Absolutely
a safe space for you.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, yes. So that was pretty much my experience. You know, I'm
Yeah.
definitely able to. I honor both my mother and my father. I'm grateful because I wouldn't have the drive I have without them.
Yeah. And
So I
I'll tell
cannot
you,
appreciate them.
I'll tell you right now, I can sort of relate to your experience to some degree.
Mm,
You know, truth be told, myself, I don't necessarily see the superficial when I deal with people and I talk to people. I have friends of all races, backgrounds, and that's the way I like it. And so, what I see when I speak to someone like yourself is someone who sort of has an energy and an experience that is very similar to mine, but also your perception of the world and the way you perceive these experiences in terms of also what you want to do with those experiences.
mm-hmm,
Um, and which is one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on the show because I did read up on you. As I, you know what I'm saying, I did read your website and so on. It's very endearing.
mm-hmm.
And
Thank
what I
you.
wanted to ask you is, and it's something you've sort of touched on already, is what sort of impact did these experiences have? And your experience is certainly dynamic. Okay, you've had the experience of hunting with, you know what I'm saying. You've had the experience of staying at the expensive hotels, but then you've also had those, you know, relationship experiences that weren't necessarily favorable. What
Mm,
sort of impact? Please expand a little bit more on your personality currently, as far as the
mm,
nurture side. My
mm.
philosophy personally is your personality as you become an adult and so on is an amalgamation of the genetic part and the nurture part.
Mm-hmm.
The genetic part obviously you have no control over, but your experiences you had growing up and so on certainly played a huge impact on who you are today, and
Mm-hmm.
what you have interest in. So please expand on,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit more about how those experiences help to shape who you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely help to give me the foundation of possibilities, right? Because a lot of people either grow up seeing one or the other for the most part. They either see poor, rich, middle class, like just one thing. So because I got to see both, I'm able to see possibilities. With my grandparents and my aunt, I was able to see possibilities for relationships. I was able to see in my home domestic violence. I was able to see with them stable relationships.
Right.
So I literally was able to see both. I was able to see poverty. I was able to see what it felt like to live rich and to not be in the Ramada Inn, but to be in the Taj Mahal,
Right.
you know, and
Mm-hmm.
to have people cater to you. And we would literally take a limousine there, and people thought we were like celebrities. And I'd be sitting in there like, you don't know, I shop at the VOA, sis. Like, like I get
Yeah.
my clothes for free, you know, and
Yeah.
not they were definitely instrumental in our lives, but nonetheless, you can only do so much from a distance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it definitely helped to shape, giving me that ability to remember that there's always a possibility. I definitely think it helped to mold and create balance, as chaotic as it was. I became very balanced because of it. I was always the
Mm.
one that was very, out of all my siblings, like they all were very hot tempered. Even my mom was very hot tempered, my father very hot tempered, but I was always like just very calm and just balanced and
Okay.
quiet. And it's so funny. It just groomed me to be that way. So I just want to mention too, there's something called epigenetics. So epigenetics does say that yes, you have your genetics. No, genetics is something that is a given, but epigenetics has proven that through choice and consistent action, you can basically um, shift and recreate your DNA while living, right? Because
Really?
your cells regenerate themselves. If you want to look this up, you can look up Dr. Joe Dispenza. His last name is spelled Dispenza.
I will
An
look it up.
amazing
Yeah.
man. He literally uses meditation, like deep theta meditation techniques to help people heal trauma that literally is stuck in their bodies causing a physical ailment. It's crazy. And I think we're not ready for it. But for the people who are ready and open for it, it's just epic. So I've researched him because there are things that I know and that I talk about, but my knowledge is from God. I don't have a doctorate degree. So people always kind of give me the side eye, like, where did you read that? I literally get people that DM me like, hey, do you have literature on what you're talking about? And I'm like,
Right. Right.
yeah. His name is God. So if you want to
Right.
call him, like you can call him anytime you want, you know. But I'll give
Right.
them like real articles, you know. But so it basically says that you can change your DNA. You can change your genetics to definitely a degree. So like most of us think like, oh, I have cancers in my genetics, and obviously it isn't, because if you eat poorly and you're prone to cancer, or if you are prone to cancer and you smoke cigarettes and you you know, I don't know, you tan and you like do all these things that are going to increase your chances. And in your thought process, right? If you believe in the law of attraction, you attract thoughts turn into things. You're going to attract that experience because you believe you're supposed to get it.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
And I 100% agree with you. That's the thing. I 100% agree with you. And I have heard the word epigenetics before, but I have not looked into that, because some of the literature that I've read, and to some degree, like yourself, I do. I don't have a degree in psychology or anything of the sort, theology or anything like that. But I do love to read and I love to watch video. I'm a very visual person. A lot of my knowledge I acquire through that, and I also acquire through talking to people like yourself who are obviously very intelligent. So I certainly will look into that as well. I feel myself like I'm on a path of changing my DNA. I mean, I'm certainly a lot different from it. I do feel personality-wise, I'm a lot different from a lot of people where I'm from. I do feel strange in that way in terms of my interest and so on. Like, for instance, when I started this platform, one of the comments I got from a cousin of mine that lives in Barbados was, what a strange thing for a Caribbean man to be into, mindfulness and psychology. Because where we're from, everybody is sort of has a similar train of thought. And psychology or mindfulness isn't something that I grew up hearing about, or is something that was discussed. It was either something was wrong with you physically, or something, mentally, you really had no control over what was going on up here. It sort of was something that was outside of your realm of control. But I did grow up as well in a very Christian background. I grew up going to church, going to Pentecostal churches and so on, So carrying right along, of course, you mentioned your studies. You went to school at BCC, yes?
I did.
And you also attended Syracuse. So what was your majors? Was it psychology?
No, so I originally was supposed to go to Long Island University for psychology, and I ended up not going because I'm like, I do not want to be $300,000 in debt. It was about $22,000 a semester, and it was so funny because I've always been like more mature for my age, and I remember being like, I enrolled in the school, I did everything I had to do, and then I remember sitting there thinking, I was like adding it up, and I was like, okay, I have to go 4 years, and I have to do another 4 years for graduate school just to become an actual psychologist. And I'm like, this is why people have a midlife crisis. I'll never be able to pay that back. Like, I will be paying that back. I'll get a great job, and then the great job, I'll work basically just to pay back the schooling. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm done. So anyways, years later, I did go to BCC. I graduated with a communication and media arts degree because I really wanted to be in radio.
Okay.
I went to Syracuse University for forensic science, but I didn't like that at all. That's when I was like really big into like NCIS and all those type of shows.
Yeah.
And then I have such a huge heart, and I'm a visual person too. I'm very visual. I have a very visual memory, and once I did it, I was like, there's no way I could be a forensic scientist and see dead people and just experience that type of trauma on a day-to-day basis and like go home and be normal. Like, I would be freaked out. Even just seeing the stuff that I saw in classes, I was just like, I can't deal with this, especially if it was like children and mothers who like put their children in ovens. And there was a case we saw where a woman got angry with her boyfriend, and they were on a highway, and he gets out the car and he walks the opposite way. And as he's walking the opposite way, she ran him over, and a portion of his brain got stuck in like a piece of underneath the car. And I was like, no, there's no way.
And you had to like look at pictures of that?
Yeah, I mean, we saw autopsies. We saw the autopsies of John F. Kennedy. His head, half his head missing.
I did see that one. I saw that one.
Yeah, and there's like
Mhm.
databases where you can look at different things.
Yeah.
You know,
Places
there
of
were
death, I
cool.
think it was.
Yeah, and there were cool parts. You know, like the gas chromatograph. That's a really cool. Like they show that on like those shows. Like they put the stuff in the machine, and not even all police stations even have those type of equipment. It's like, I don't know. I think most of them have to like send them somewhere. Like the FBI has that stuff where you could put like a dollar bill into it and it'll pull off all the chemicals that are on the dollar bill. So, anyways, needless to say, I just tested a lot of things out. I've even been to school for business. I went to a school called ASA, and then I left that because I was like, this is way too easy.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't for me. So definitely communications and media arts was really, really fun for me because I love to write. I love audio and visual. And just being, I mean, that's a means of communication, right? In the era that we're in, it's not like we're sitting around a fire passing around stories that we learned from our grandparents.
Yeah.
It's more so the visual and audio way. How do we communicate with people and tell stories to get people to remember who they are?
Right.
So yeah, I went to BCC and graduated, and ever since then, I pretty much hit the ground running.
Yeah. And so, did you have any experiences during college that were sort of memorable outside of you know the actual academic portion of it? Did you know any memorable like were you someone that partied in college? You know, sort of had a good time in that way, or were you like more of like a homebody? You stayed in there and you studied regularly, and turned your
Definitely.
homework in on time and stuff like that.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And just because of my experiences, like, mind you, I was with this guy, sidebar, he was from Guyana. I was with this
What?
guy. Yeah,
No
he
wonder you've been
was.
looking at me like that. I've noticed that
Oh,
look.
yeah,
I noticed
right.
that look. I listen. Let me say this to you. I'm not your typical Guyanese. Okay, I do not represent all Guyanese. I'm just a Guyanese man. Okay, so whatever experiences you had and anybody else is watching, because I've come across people before who've dated Guyanese men, and they may not have had the best experiences with those men. Okay.
No, but you know what? Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, we allow what we think we deserve, and not for nothing, you know, as crazy as it is. And I always tell people, I think that's why I was with him for so long, because yeah, he was pretty effed up on a lot of levels, but on a side level, you know, the thing that kept me with him for so long is he was so caring. Like
Mm,
he was so caring, and he wasn't like that bum dude that's like, don't go to school. Like he wanted me to go to school. He wanted me to be successful. It was just like, you could be successful, but you gotta come right home. You could be successful, but don't be talking to no men, other men. Like you could
mm,
be successful. You know, he was very controlling and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I think that's what kind of cornered me into just staying with him, because he was very caring, and I
Yeah.
learned a lot. I learned a lot from a wisdom standpoint, you know, but nonetheless to say, I wasn't looking at you like that. And your accent is so different. I'm surprised I didn't pick up on it. Like it doesn't sound very Guyanese to me.
Because I'm doing a good job right now of hiding it. Make sure what I tell you right now. You
Oh,
understand? Yeah, that's what I was saying.
yes, 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 yes. I even think I picked up on it a little bit, because there's little things that I say that I'm like, you know, I was with him for years, at least almost over 4 years. So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and I love Caribbean people. I love Caribbean people,
Yeah.
just they're my heart. But yeah. So no, I pretty much was a homebody, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing about Syracuse University is when I went to Syracuse University, I saw people doing the party thing,
Okay.
and I was so irritated with it, because I'm just like, you know, and not for nothing. I kind of did that when I was like way underage and shouldn't have been
Yeah.
doing it. You know what I'm
So you kind of
saying? So
got it out
by
of your
that
system
time,
a little bit.
yeah. So I was just
Yeah.
like, and for me too, it's like I'm that girl that, like, if I'm studying, I need pure silence. Either silence,
Mm.
classical music, or meditation music. Like I'm not someone, like, there's people who can listen to like rap or like other stuff. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I like libraries, you know.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was in school, you know, it's like I just took it really seriously, and I definitely didn't have any experiences of like partying, and you know, wasn't my thing. And then by the
Mm-hmm.
time I did go to BCC, I was a mom. So if anything, I was irritated. I was highly irritated with like the younger generation, not knowing assignments were due and complaining all the time that assignments were due. I'm just like, I'd be the person in class looking at them like, just be quiet. We all got
Yeah.
the syllabus. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to grow
Yeah.
up. And I would say to them, like, no one cares about you anymore. Okay. So you need to care about you. You know, this is not high school. No one's
Yeah.
chasing you. Get the work done or you're going to flunk and you're going to owe money. Just get it done. But honestly, I'm not knocking school and I'm not boasting either right now. I got a
Yeah.
3.9 GPA when I graduated.
Okay.
And the only reason why I got a 3.9 was because my teacher, who I used to argue with the whole semester because she was such a bad teacher, she was horrible. She gave me an A minus, which to me an A minus is such a slap in the face because it's like you did great, but I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is a minus? Like, how do you get
You're
an
taking
A
it personal.
Yeah, but it shouldn't exist.
Well, maybe you
A
forgot to cross your
exist.
one T and then dot your one I. She just had to show it to you. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure you.
She was a hater. She didn't
I'll tell you right now.
Challenge her.
I'll tell you right now. So that's where we're different. I'm assuming. So you don't have any problems paying attention to things. Is that's probably one of the ways we are very different because I have a serious problem paying attention to things outside of people. Okay, I love talking to people. Hence why I'm on this platform. I will pay attention all day talking to someone who's very interesting. But anything else, like you start throwing some math in my face, I'm thinking about well, what was for breakfast?
Right.
What's for breakfast tomorrow? That's what I'm talking about. What was for breakfast tomorrow?
right. Yeah, no, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So
I don't think I think college is it's just I think now the times that we live in, there's so many opportunities to learn and to grow, to make money.
Yeah.
Right. Why do we go to college? Because we want to make money.
Yeah.
We want to feel important. We want to be admired. Whatever the hell people do it for, So that's why I've never really continued on. But to me, it was just an experience to get that notch under my belt and then use it to the best of my ability to capitalize.
I have this discussion with people all the time because they'll ask me, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to college and stuff like that? And I'm not going to discourage anybody from going to school and going to college. I just think if you, I got to be very careful what I say here. Okay. For me personally, I don't have any intention of going back to college because I know what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy what I do. Okay. But if you don't have that sort of fortitude to, or sort of that vision of knowing what you want to do, then by all means go to college. And along the way, people tend to figure out what they want to do along the way, or hopefully get some sort of degree or something that is going to let them earn some money whilst they figure out what they want to do. The other thing with college, what it does is it gives you the ability, because a lot of times people go into college right after high school or whatever the case is. And when you're in high school or you're at home, people are holding your hand and making sure you do your homework on time, and they're checking in on you, and they're making sure you stay awake and you're studying or whatever the case is. When you go to college, it's a little bit of your first opportunity of adulthood, a little taste of it. And now you have to manage yourself because the professor isn't messaging you, asking you if you did your homework on time or whatever the case is. He's just like turning your assignments and that's it. Pass or fail, that's on you. So I think that's one of the benefits of it is it sort of to some degree teaches you some discipline, especially if you can get through the process. And I think that's why a lot of jobs require a college education of some kind, even if the job has nothing to do with the degree that you actually earn in college. So you see a lot of people going for liberal arts degrees or whatever the case is, where they sort of touch on every little thing. And then they use that to go in to different fields. When I left college myself, I did not graduate. But when I left college, the job that I had required a college degree. They didn't care what college degree. They just wanted you to have it because it kind of showed that you had some measure of intelligence, I guess slightly above average, And I know that, after college, you kind of got into radio. I know you touched on that already. And there's something communication and video and things like that. How did that happen? I mean, did you just earn the communications, went to school for communications and you just sort of fell into it? Like, did you have to pursue these jobs?
Let me tell you, no, my life, because I'm very, I'm a woman of God, period. Because every experience I have is an experience that leads to another experience that leads to another experience. So when I moved back to the upstate New York, I got a job working at a radio station, but I was just a receptionist. And I remember they needed someone to record a commercial one day, and they come up to me and they're like, "Hey, can you record this commercial for us?" And I'm like, "Hey, no problem. I've never recorded a commercial a day in my life." So I go down to the studio, I record the commercial, and I look around at everybody, and everyone's just like, "Oh my God, you have such a perfect voice for radio."
Yeah.
And I've always kind of looked up to Oprah in a way as a commentator. I've always loved the way she interviewed people, her style. Like, she could be invasive a little bit, but not raunchy. She wasn't like Wendy Williams, like, "So girl, how was it?" Like, she always could get you to tell you her certain things, but she wasn't raunchy about it. And I've always loved that about her. So anyways, I record the commercial, and then it kind of just sparked something in me where I was like, I should go to school. I should go to school for this and do this. And while I'm working at that radio station, I met a gentleman. He was coming into the radio station to get his artist played. He owned a production studio right on the next block over. And we kind of just connected and we became friends. And while I got my degree, I interned for his production agency. And the funniest thing was I had to do a project for it was like an intro to audio class or something like that. And my project it was intro to radio. And for my project, I had to create my own radio station. And it was a country. Of course, they gave me country. They're like, "You're Black, we're going to make you do country." So my favorite number is 3. So my radio station was 93.3. So the person that before I had interned with them, they called me and they're like, "Listen, Ed, we got some really big things happening. We're getting our radio license. Like, there's a lot of big things happening, and we see you being one of our radio hosts. And the radio station is going to be, the frequency will be 93.3. And I'm like, "No way!"
It worked out perfectly.
Right? I'm like, "No way!" And that kind of just happened. And I was a general manager for them. I did everything. I recorded commercials. I had my own show on Sundays called Sunday Soul Chat, which is funny because now I do that as a podcast. I stuck with that name.
Oh, Sunday School Chat is your podcast.
Sunday Soul Chat.
Okay.
My podcast is Soul Chat, and then I have a Sunday Soul Chat live on Instagram series that I interview people about different things, relationships, just conversations that are deeper than the soul and that are interesting,
Yes.
Yeah.
So 93.3 FM coming to you live. Yeah. A little bit of my radio voice I'm trying to do here.
Yes.
So when I started this channel, I actually, and this is a little bit of overzealousness, but when I started this channel, and I started this platform, I should say, I've actually just moved on to putting the videos now on Facebook and other platforms. I mean, putting them on Instagram and things like that. But when I started out, I love audio. I love radio, and sort of radio and music was something that was a tether to me from out of the void. At one point in my life, I was abandoned and sort of left to my own devices when I was, let's say, about 5 years old. And when I sort of was left in this house by myself to fend for myself at that early age, this is back in Guyana, the thing that kept me out of the void and kept me believing that I would make it was radio. I had the radio on every night. And it's funny because, being a Black man here in America, I will put on soft rock at work or whatever the case is, because this is the 80s, okay? And I'm a little bit older than you, in case you can't tell from all the wrinkles. But this is in the late 80s. And we, in Guyana and outside of America, American culture is pervasive. So we listen to a lot of soft rock and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So even now at my age, the people I work with, most of them are white, and they'll turn on some soft rock station or some 80s pop music, and I'll sing right along with them. And they'll be like, "What? How do you know this song?" You know what I'm saying? I've never told them the story, and I know some of them are listening to the podcast. That's how I know these songs. It's because they were tethered to me. They kept me in place, and I love radio, and I love those deep radio voices and things like that. I never really kind of wanted to be in radio or audio or anything like that, but I just love it, and I don't even know. It's very hard for me to sleep without either sort of meditation music going or classical music or like voices like Delilah and these. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So definitely
That's full
huge.
circle.
That's full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like you don't know why I think this life is that way. You don't know why things stick out to you or why you gravitate towards them. But to me, I feel like when you then sit in that space of like recording your own podcast and being a voice, you then emanate what you were, what it was to you, right? But you didn't know why you sat and gravitated towards that. You could have gravitated towards anything. You could have gravitated towards the stars. You could have gravitated towards the grass. Like,
Yeah.
you could have gravitated towards a million things, but you
Yeah.
chose the radio, So you definitely have a radio voice for sure.
I'm just putting it on. This is not hard. I just turned the microphone up. That's all. But I got a little bit excited once I started this channel. I was starting to say, and I got attention deficit. And I went around to all the local radio stations in Binghamton, and see, I got 50 subscribers on my YouTube channel. Like, what opportunities do you guys have? Can I do an interview or something? You know what I'm saying? Just overzealous. So I definitely like the fact that you were able to have that sight at such a young age to sort of pursue your dreams. It took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. I was one of those people that never really knew because I moved around a lot. I left Guyana when I was 6, lived in St. Lucia for 10 years. Grew up in St. Lucia, moved to the Bronx, lived in the Bronx, which I absolutely disliked. Living in big cities. I'm a country boy. I'm an island man. That's what I like. I like the beach. I like the ocean. That's what I like. I don't like big cities and concrete. Um, and yeah, it was sort of a tether, radio for me, and I just automatically went around and just sort of I was pitching to iHeartRadio, and these people were probably looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, you got 50 subscribers. I mean, they were being nice, but you got 50 subscribers and you're out here. I called this radio station, called the guy, and he was telling me about his audience in downtown Binghamton. He's telling me about his, that radio station. I don't know if you're familiar, the radio station on State Street with the big red letters and stuff like that, downtown Binghamton. But
Yeah, that's the first one I worked at.
Is it?
Yeah.
I walked right into the radio station. I was like, just making demands and stuff like that, and of course, subsequently, I was ignored. A couple people did respond when I called them back and things like that, but I haven't pursued it since. But who knows? Maybe I'll try again one day, or I won't. Who knows?
I mean, the thing about radio, I mean, I could definitely plug you with, the one I was with. I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, they need somebody, but I think the thing with radio that people don't see is that it's not, you see like the Breakfast Club and those type of things. I find that in smaller cities, there's not opportunity for a voice, right? They want a personality, but everything else is just numbers, advertisers, and the personality is like the sometimes fill in. You know what I'm saying? But it's like
Okay.
It's not like the Breakfast Club where you're like, yo, I'm a radio host. It's kind of like you basically get a list from corporate. Corporate says, we're playing this list of songs today.
Oh no.
You need to plug this here.
No.
Most of your radio hosts get there at like 5 a.m. They'll record a little bit. That'll air like during the morning drive hour a little bit, so you'll think they're there. But it's not really like it used to be. And even when you see the Breakfast Club, I mean, they have the same format. They just have paid attention to the ability to reach people via YouTube and video and stuff like that. So they
Right.
have this set up like it's, oh, we just sit down and we just like, it's only because it's so popular. Interviews are so popular and people love celebrities and stuff like that, that people saw that was an area for opportunity. But I mean, radio has definitely changed. It's not radio like we think it is. You know, it's not like your DJ that's there and, you know, we think they have, you know, ability to rock out. And that's really only in like big cities
Mm-hmm.
from what I see, you know, but in
Yeah.
smaller cities, it's like, you don't have a chance. iHeartRadio is not iHeart. The iHeartRadio out here, that's not even iHeartRadio. That's just like, that's like something they got playing. That's just, they just
Yeah.
hit a button, you know, and it
I
goes. And they
understand.
record local commercials and insert the local commercials and stuff. So you think it's like a local thing, and it's really not.
So that artistic freedom really isn't there to sort of make it your own.
No,
Yeah. See,
no,
that
not at
wouldn't
all.
work for me. I cannot be a drone. I have to be a
Yeah,
free thinker. I have to insert my art.
yeah,
So,
for sure, for sure.
um, so one of your slogans is heal and thrive into wholeness.
Hmm.
What is the significance of becoming whole? What does being whole mean to you?
Hmm. Um, so being whole to me is understanding your divinity. One of the things I think that God tells us in many religions that we just gloss over is that you were made in the image of God.
Mm.
And to me, that's such a grand statement that I think the human mind can't comprehend it, doesn't want to comprehend it. It wants to say, no, let me worship you. Let me
Mm.
just beg you and pray for you for everything that I need because I don't have control. You're the one who's in control. And yes, God is in control. But in this here domain of earth, in the physical waking reality, we have the power
Mm.
over everything. And that's
Yeah.
even told to us. We have power and dominion over everything, over the land, everything.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, so to me, wholeness is embodying that truth and being able to take your experiences. And like I said in the beginning, you got to become third person to them because you can't be whole. I know that feeling. I know that feeling of feeling broken. I know that feeling of feeling useless. You know that feeling.
Yes.
Deserted, abandoned. I was in foster care for a portion of my life, you know, and if you don't have parents who love on you and are active with you, even if you have parents who are there and provide everything for you, there's kids who are rich, there's kids who have parents who are millionaires who feel just as abandoned as those poor little kids who live in poverty. You know,
Yes.
so the degree of feeling non-whole is just that void, and we all in the 21st century are seeking to fill that void. We do it with purchasing, over consuming things. You see the craze with, you know, every holiday now is like you buy something. If you have kids in school, it's just crazy because it's like we are just consumers, and we're looking to fill voids, and we're looking to supplement who we think we need to be. We supplement it with things opposed to saying, I am whole, right? When you are whole, you stop making certain decisions. You stop shopping, especially for women. You stop shopping for the sake of shopping. You stop shopping for the sake of, you know, trying to impress others or even yourself or
Mm.
fill a void of unworthiness, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, wholeness is just remembering that you are made in the image of God. You are a powerful creator, and you have to really sit back and look at why you do what you do. And they say that 98% of people suffer from unworthiness. So we all suffer from unworthiness. That's because we don't feel whole. When you feel whole and you pour from an overflowing cup, you don't need anything. If
Mm.
I'm overflowing, I don't need anything.
Yeah.
I'm giving, and if I receive, it's great, and it's just going to add to my overflow. In which, what am I going to do? I'm going to give back again, you
Mm.
know. And I think because people don't operate like that, you know, we live in a depleted society with mental illness and over consuming and sickness
Mm.
and crime, and that's why we live in the times we live in, because people don't embody wholeness and they don't search for wholeness. They would rather sugarcoat it and search for other things. A woman would rather buy makeup than to buy a self-love course.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Right? The majority.
Right.
So that, what does that say? That says that we are not comfortable with it because it's painful. It's painful to say, why am I the way that I am? And what are the things that really hurt me? Because they hurt. They really hurt. I mean, even though I'm a healer, stepping away from an 11-year relationship taught me so much of things that I was afraid of, and so many painful childhood memories that I didn't want to relive.
Okay. And so would becoming whole be akin to finding happiness, like ultimate self actualization? Would that be akin to that in any way?
I would say self actualization. I wouldn't say happiness, because I think we are humans, and happiness in a way is illusion, because we're meant to feel many emotions. So I feel like if you just chase happiness, when you experience anything other than that, and I've been this person, so I'm speaking from experience, you feel even more grief, because you're like, I'm just supposed to be happy. Everything's supposed to be sunshine. And if it's not sunshine, it's wrong and it's bad. And it's just, and I think equally that causes more suffering, but to me, it's just wholeness is definitely self-actualization. And to me, it's the embodiment of, I think, for the lack of better terms, I really think what comes to mind is like Christ consciousness, which is a consciousness of flow, a consciousness of nothing is good, nothing is bad, everything works out for me, everything is a blessing. Like you're able to have a mentality that you're just moving through life. Like life moves through you and you allow it. But you always have to become a third person to experiences, because experiences create perceptions that are not real, right? So it's kind of like you see somebody in a store and they roll their eyes at you. Yeah. They could have been looking past you and, saw something else, and, but it's the experience. And then all of a sudden that experience then turns into you being like, what are you looking at? And it's like, or our childhoods, especially with childhoods, they create this experience that what did you being abandoned at 5 really tell your subconscious mind? It told your subconscious mind that you are not worthy, that nobody cares about you, nobody's going to ever be there for you, and that you have to fend for yourself. And that I'm sure you've probably been able to reflect, and I'm sure at points of your life you have felt very unsupported, and you've repeated that subconscious thought over and over and over again. And when we repeat it, only until you stop it and you go, what? I am safe, guided, and supported at all times. I'm supported by God. There's no problem or undesirable situation in the mind of God, who is in me and around me and surrounds me now. So I'm good. It don't matter what's happening. God was there with you.
Yes.
Right? And God gave you a tool and a thing, and that you gravitated to, and that kept you, because you could have been someone else. You could have turned out to be like a drug lord, because you're like, I hate people. And I hate everybody because I was abandoned, and nobody loves you and nobody loves me. And, this is just the way life is, So I think there's power when we take those experiences and we transform them into wholeness, because you transform that into wholeness of, no, it didn't mean I wasn't worthy. That was their thing, like I took it and I flipped it and I made it into something positive. And to me, that's the discovery of wholeness. And like you said, self-actualization. I think happiness is a definite one. It's you have to tread lightly with that. I do think we need to understand, especially within the Black community, what joy is.
Oh, okay.
I think wholeness allows you to experience joy. Joy and happiness are not the same thing.
Okay, that's a word I don't use enough of.
Yeah, so happiness is like, I went and had my favorite ice cream, and you're just like dangling your feet,
because you're
fleeting.
Like, it's temporary.
Right. Yeah, right. Unless you keep eating the ice cream and then you regret it, because you're like, damn, and now I weigh 5 pounds heavier, and then your happiness is gone, right?
The happiness is gone.
Right. But joy is, whether I'm big, whether I'm skinny, whether I'm in a box, whether I'm in a mansion, whether I have love, have no love, whether I like, it doesn't matter. Like, I have this joy inside of me that is just so happy to be alive, so happy to experience this. And I think joy is, an ebb and flow of feeling too. And I think we have to create it and curate it a lot, really, in finding gratitude and just the mundane things. But it's just, to me, joy is just that thing where it's like you light up from the inside out.
Okay.
And you're just, your happiness is overflow. Because I feel like the ice cream experience is a happiness inflow, right? You're not eating ice cream like, yo, come here, let me tell you about this ice cream I'm eating right now. But when you're having a really great day and you just feel in the spirit of joy, and you're like, hey, you guys, great morning. Hey, you guys, you know what? Let me pay for that coffee behind me.
Right.
I don't know what their day is like right now, but I'm just having a freaking amazing day. Let me pay for their coffee. Like, you're just high-fiving people, like skipping. This is like me to a T, But, it's just a different experience. And I've learned the difference between the two and what joy is. And when you have joy, to me, that's when you're in your light. You're in your connectedness with God. That's the God that wants you to exuberate it so other people can see it and go like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you on? I need some of that,
Yes.
So,
And that's a little bit of, I put out a video when I first started the platform on finding purpose. And I felt like finding purpose absolutely involves other people in terms of creating a sort of impact in the world outside of yourself. And I think in a lot of cases, and I'm listening to you, a lot of cases, the terminologies might be different, but the message is the same in terms of giving back to other people, making people feel your light, making them feel your energy, making them feel your overflow, and sort of changing the culture and the energy of your environment. Is that a similar thing to what you're saying?
Definitely. And it's funny you said that, because I'm part of one of the things that I do is I'm part of an MLM network. And it's so funny because I was telling someone on my team the reason why I have a coach above me, and she said she loves being a part of MLM because the only way you can be successful in MLM, like super successful, is by helping other people, right? You have to grow your team. You have to mentor your team. I have like 9 people beneath me, who I'm just growing them under me. But it's like, I could focus on me and my bossness and like bossing up and selling bad products and networking and, but it's like, but if I build my legs and my team, I win even more. Like, that skyrockets me. I could just focus on that and just be good and not sell nothing, right? So I was like, damn, that's why I really love particularly this company. I don't love all MLM. I love this company. Life is MLM if people really think about it. Like, going to college is MLM. There's always a hierarchy to everything. That's just the reality. But I definitely agree with you. And to me, that's how you in the purpose and stuff like that. I think we find joy. I'm sure you find joy in these conversations. You grow a little bit more. I grow a little bit more from having the discussion. And that's the feeling of that. Yeah, definitely.
I'm awake right now.
Me too. Definitely. And I definitely think it's one and the same type of thing for sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you, and I know you're a God-fearing woman, you're a Christian woman. And I do believe it's very similar or akin prayer, in my opinion. And I'm certainly open to your opinions, definitely. But I think that prayer is very similar or has a similar effect on your mind and your soul as meditation. So what sort of meditation techniques do you employ? Is it prayer?
So I want to say this. So I am Christian at heart. Why? Because I grew up Christian. I love the teachings of Jesus. I love what Jesus taught, which we totally missed it. Jesus didn't want to be worshiped. He wanted to show us. He said it. You can do what I can do. Let me show you what you can do.
Yes,
I'm not
absolutely.
Christian in that sense of religious. I don't know a lot of scriptures. I'm spiritual. I've learned about all different religions because I'm just that curious of a person. Obviously, meditation. Jesus meditated in the wilderness 40 days for 40 days. So I don't know what people thought he was doing. However, the practice itself, right, is found more in Buddhism, in other religious practices where it's actually a practice.
Yes.
So for me, I'll give you this quote. So the quote says, prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God. I don't believe that, I don't use them as the same thing, right?
Okay.
There's a difference to me. So my prayer is, for me, like affirmations are prayers, right? Because I am is like, that's the acknowledgement of God. I am. I am, right? ... Right? You're affirming your godliness, or whatever comes after that should be godlike, right? To me, meditation though is just doing nothing. Like, I'll read you this quote. It's doing nothing, and it's that practice of, it's 11:11, by the way.
Yes, I got it.
Hey,
let me know how much time you have left.
Oh, we're good. I'm no rush.
Okay. Oh, I'm looking at the time.
It says, meditation isn't something you do. Meditation is simply stepping back from the need to do anything at all, and it says simply witnessing this moment fully. So for me, that's the listening part, right?
Okay.
Because when I'm praying and I'm affirming, because I do pray as well. Like, gratitude, God, thank you so much, or God, I literally did a meditation that's like, a prayer podcast this weekend because I just felt so called to just pray for people. But those two things are not the same for me. So when I'm sitting in meditation, I want to get the downloads that God has for me.
Okay.
I want to be able to hear, once I get through my mind, the layer of my mind, I want to be able to hear what God is saying to me. Because most times it's either or. It's either you're just in your mind and you're just trying to calm it, sit with it, understand it, hear, and see like what you're most worried about, what thoughts are most present and prevalent in your mind. Because I think we can ignore them throughout the day. And then when you sit down, you can kind of, really, you have no choice but to see them. And also the doing nothing at all. We practice distraction. We are a society that practices distraction.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think that's why people have such a hard time with meditation, because people are like, oh, no, I meditate. When I cook, that's my meditation. When I work out, that's my meditation.
No.
And it's like, no, you don't understand the power you gain from doing nothing.
Yes.
Nothing at all. And taking yourself into, there's so many physiological things that happen as well. But to me, they're not the same thing. And I like to hear what's happening. And there's definitely so many times where I just get downloads of just things for other people, things for myself, just so many different things that I know the two are just very, very, very different.
Very different even, yes. Yes.
And the intentions and what we're doing. And I do see them as one is listening, one is talking to God.
That is a perspective that I have not heard before. And I sort of, a lot of the things that I think of, and I do think a lot, hence why it's called Just a Thought. I spend a lot of time thinking, but I enjoy listening as well. And that is a perspective that I have not had before. Because a lot of times I will say that they're both one and the same, and at the very least, the effect it has on your mind, the calming effect, that sort of feeling that it's okay, it's okay. That's the feeling I get from both, whether I meditate or pray. But certainly the download versus living in the moment, which is something that I do promote, but I promote it because I also struggle with it. I try to meditate every day, and stuff like that, because it keeps me. It does keep me centered. That is a big part of the whole platform. It's why this little guy over here is lit up.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
I have one in my house.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was lucky. I found this guy. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I'll have all kind of omens. But your question, you said, what are my practices? More so is breathing. First and foremost is breathing and relaxation. You definitely have to breathe into meditation. And I walk people through like a body scan and just like paying attention to your tongue is probably at the roof of your mouth. Your eyes are probably like this. Your shoulders are probably really tight. So I walk people through that.
Mm.
And that's a self-actualization itself, which is like, dang, how she know the tongue is like, because we're all stressed out and we're all doing it, you know.
Mm.
So that's first and foremost. I gravitate towards chakra meditation because chakras, whether you want to believe in them or not, whether you want to invest in them or not, you know, we are energy beings, and we have, to me, chakras represent, to me, the correlation between energy and physiological ailments, right?
Okay.
So, as an example, the easiest one across the board that I always think about is, okay, if you got your heart broke today,
Mm.
where would it hurt?
Man, that would hurt. I would literally feel it in my heart. Um,
Boom.
yeah,
Thank you. That's it.
I
That's it.
literally,
You
yeah.
would literally feel it in your heart. We've all been there where your heart is just, you literally can feel it, whether your heart rate might even escalate, right? There's physiological things that happen. So if we can all understand that, to me, chakras help us understand everything else. And every chakra is connected to major organs. So if you go research Dr. Joe Dispenza, this relies on a lot of his research and what he does, and he has a large following. But it's like, okay, so people who have anger, a lot of people who carry a lot of anger tend to end up with certain ailments like cancer in a
Yes.
specific area. You see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
to me, and then even for childhood experiences, when I walk people through, you know, the root chakra of being safe, guided, and supported, the sacral chakra of having trust in yourself, the solar plexus chakra of feeling empowered and secure in who you are, the heart chakra of trusting and allowing love. That's hard. A lot of us can give love, but we can't receive love,
Mm.
right? The throat
Yeah.
chakra of speaking your mind. A lot of people, these are the spiritual chakras. So the spiritual chakras are the throat, the throat. I'm sorry, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown, because these are the worlds of the unseen. Everything below is carnal. So that's your, you know, that's why when when you think about the colors, a lot of music is the colors are like red or orange because they're enticing your root chakras, right?
Mm.
And if you're not balanced, you are very susceptible to the programming and you don't even know why. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So with the throat chakras, the throat, when you speak, this is the only way your soul can communicate with the world. If you
Mm.
never speak, you can never tell people what your soul's essence is. You
Mm-hmm.
never get to, I mean, unless you write and you're a writer and you can't speak, then you write, right? You find a way to get that
Mm.
voice out there. And then there's obviously the heart. The heart knows, there's studies that show, and there's a movie, I can't even think of it right now. It's actually on YouTube, you could purchase it. That the heart, they did studies where they put people in front of a screen, and what they did is they hooked it up with like an EKG machine where they would pretty much pay attention to the heart, and the heart started to beat before the image appeared. So that told them that
Mm.
before there's even like a logical response to something, your heart and the power and the magnitude and the vibration of what is in your heart is more powerful, and you just know what you know, what you know.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
So, but we don't give it credit. Like we all kind of doubt it a little bit, or we get afraid because we've been hurt so much, um,
Mm.
or we just don't trust it. We don't trust our heart's desire to say, you know what, I really like to knit. I always use knitting because I feel like it's such a mundane example. There's somebody out there that's a knitter, that's an amazing knitter that should be knitting scarves for people as a living, like dope scarves with some rhinestones on them and some faces. I don't really know, but we
Yeah.
doubt it because all the things we've been through, perception of what other people think, what's popular, what's acceptable, all these things, we filter it through a lens of experience that really makes us more fearful than faithful. So my practice is based on chakra meditation and just grounding people and teaching people that you are energy. So if you can tap into these different chakras, you know, you're going to release old wounds because you're going to realize that they're still there. You never
Mm.
let them go.
Yes.
And in letting them go, you're going to feel more freedom. You're going to feel more clarity, more confidence. Because a lot of times when you shrink yourself and you think about that thought of like, I shrunk, like I was in a room with a bunch of powerful people and I felt really tiny, it's because you become your child self again, your child brain. So until you start working that childlike mentality out of yourself and the experiences that your childhood triggered within you, you can't operate in full confidence and assuredness of like, no, I said what I said. Yeah, I want them into iHeartRadio, and y'all need to know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all need this. I mean, I think what you're doing is way better than what they could have ever offered you anyways. And there's so much money to be made with podcasting and just on your own anyways. But you know, that's the way that I teach people. And I don't even know why I gravitated towards it. I think it just made sense to me on the soul level. And it scared me at first. But I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't even know. And then I kind of got back into it in the past like 5 years, and it kind of just all started clicking, and I was at the right time. It was just the right time for me to revisit it, and it kind of just lit up, and that's kind of what I teach.
Okay, I love it. I absolutely love it, and great teaching moment for myself. Forget about them, for me. Great teaching moment.
Awesome.
So I was looking at your Instagram, and I talked earlier about loving photography and video and things like that. That's how I learned. So I was looking at it, and I noticed that you posted a picture of yourself in underwear, and you know, with the caption including the ideas of self-love and accepting imperfections. Okay, on Instagram. Please expand on that, and sort of, you were willing to show yourself in a way that other people may feel insecure about doing, but you were empowered. You're empowered to show a little bit of your quote unquote imperfection by most people's standards of what imperfection is, which I did not see at all. But I know what you were going for. Please expand on that. What is the significance of showing yourself in that way?
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of that person that I'm either like really super modest or I'm like explosive. And I have these visions of, you know, that was a vision. That photo shoot was a vision because I know what people think. And I think because you said that, it made me, even when I saw the question, I just was like, oh, that's a good question. Because typically, if I was like a certain type of woman, my inbox would have been overflooded with dudes. That didn't happen.
Yes.
That didn't happen because I don't represent that. I never showed up, even in just my basic pictures with like my kids or just like around the way. Like I've never showed up as that type of girl to where I would get that energy, right? So I knew just more than anything that this was me doing that was standing up for people to understand. There's so many people who look at me and you just see here up. Right? We're doing interviews, you see here up. Even if you see my full body, everybody looks at people and you just assume they're so perfect. I wish I had your skin. And I hate when people have said that to me my whole life. I wish I was as pretty as you. And it's like, you don't know me and I'm not perfect. I'm so imperfect and I'm accepting of it and I just don't care. I'm so imperfect. Like, I literally let my kids the other day listen to the story because I had to let them understand how parents feel. And any other parent out there would be like, she is the worst parent in the world. I let them listen to the story with Samuel L. Jackson where it's called Go the Fuck to Sleep. You ever heard of that?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, it's so funny. He just reads it, but the book is called Go the Fuck to Sleep. And it's like, I had to share with them, like, I don't curse at my kids. I try not to, at least.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had to share with them, you know, this is how parents feel. We love you guys so much.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just gotta go the fuck to sleep.
Just shut the fuck up and go to sleep.
Yeah. And I'm not a bad parent for that.
I love it.
Just to show, I want to give people permission to be fucking imperfect.
Yes.
To say you love Jesus, to say curse words, and it's okay. You're not going to hell. And if we're all going to hell, then God, just let me buy the most expensive, beautiful bathing suit that I can before I get there. Please. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel, you know? And it's like, that was me standing up for people. That was me just showing people that we are imperfect, especially moms. We have babies and we just feel like a piece of a doll, like a Toy Story toy that just doesn't get played with anymore, you know? And it's like, No, you have to reclaim your imperfections, and you have to start to love on them. You have to start to look at yourself with glory, with honor, with dignity, and put your crown on and just rock it out. And I knew that that type of photo shoot would come across that way, because so many people are afraid to put those images out there, and you don't see those images. And if you do, sometimes it's just like raunchy. It's like, so I was like, let me make this artistic and like fun and vibrant and show people, you have to just accept that you're going to be imperfect, but you need to move. You need to live on purpose. You need to start valuing yourself so that you can give whatever God planted inside of you. God plants the seed inside everybody. And it's our job to nurture it, to water it, to give it light, to give it air, and let it grow. And unfortunately, so many people don't. And that's the greatest tragedy of all time is not. And again, there's a lot of forces that don't want people being like, I'm so powerful, because then they wouldn't exist. But in the same breath, imagine if more people did.
Yes. Yes.
So if I can help one person, two people, whatever, just with that message, and if I have to show up and like take some clothes off to say, hey, this is what you gotta love yourself. Like, you have to just be so imperfectly perfect that you just become the energy, you become the vibration, you become what you want, and you don't attract anything less than, because you know your worth, no matter how many scars you have physically or with internally. You're just perfect and you're amazing, and just know that.
Absolutely. And that's very empowering. And, earlier you touched on the law of attraction. And I know you recited a poem recently, April 16th to be exact. I know the date. Speak it. What is the significance of speaking your truth and speaking out loud what you want?
It's magic. I mean, honestly. So that poem was written, I used to do live poetry events, and I wrote that poem probably I think that was written in 2016 as well, when I launched the first poetry event. Because part of my poetry events, what I wanted to do for people, and anyone who's ever been to them, I've sung at poetry events, I've danced. Like, I am not a choreographer, but I do these things to be goofy, to be silly, just to show people, like, I will step out of my comfort zone for you. If that helps you to step out of your comfort zone and to be free and to be unapologetic, even just a little bit more, I'm going to do those things. So that poem I had written because, for me, I see everything as symbolism. So it's like, speak it, like, I can't even remember it clearly, but it's like, like the way the earth speaks to the animals, and they know to go south, right? There's all these things that are being unspoken in nature all around us, and we don't see it. Right. So if you're not speaking your truth, and you're not standing firm on who you are, and a lot of this has to do with healing, because if you don't heal, you can never speak your truth. You'll speak what sounds good to other people. You'll speak what sounds nice. You'll speak what other people want to hear, and that's bullshit. And we've all done that. We've all done that, where you're like, oh, I hate, and people, I'm so nice, and I'm just so nice. It's like, nice is like AKA for you are a pushover.
Yeah.
You do not speak what you need to say.
Somebody's
and
rug.
Then also, and then having the discernment enough, because then there's people who are like, oh, I speak the truth all the time. No, you're an asshole. So you have to find a medium.
You gotta find a balance.
Right. We got to meet in the middle of wisdom, knowledge, kindness, and speaking what I like, what I want to do. And I think people don't realize how freeing it is. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that time when, you're peer pressured into something, or somebody's like, hey, do you want to do this? Or for me, I used to be a yes person. When I worked at the radio station, I had all these other jobs, and I was just like, yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Because I thought it was opportunity, until all this time went by and I had to sit back, and I felt like a carpet. I've never been somebody's carpet. So I was like, whoa, how do I rein back in my power and my peace and my dignity, and then again, not really react in a way like I felt like a caged animal. When you get backed into a corner, you're so used to being nice, now you're in a corner. There's a book called Don't Be Nice, Be Real. And I read this book years ago, and it was about all these people who would they interviewed the friends of serial killers and people who did crazy things. And they said, what would you say about Joe? You know, Joe who did the Oklahoma City bomb. What would you say about him? Every single person said the same thing. Oh my God, that guy was so nice. He was the nicest guy. He gave you a shirt off his back. But you know what nice did? It made a serial killer. So that taught me, stop being fucking nice. I didn't even read the book because I was so disgusted. I was like, I'm not going to be nice. But then again, in the same breath, you know, 2-3 years later, I ended up being that person who was just being so nice, and I was trying to get opportunities, and I wanted to grow, that I was in a corner and I was just being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So speaking your mind and saying, you know, somebody says, hey, do you want to do this? And you really don't want to do it, but you say yes. And sometimes we don't even have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
You don't even have the capacity. You're spent, you're tired, but you feel obligated, or you feel like you owe them something, whatever it might be. And you're like, yeah, I'll do it. And then you do it with resentment.
How do you get away from that? How do you get out of that kind of behavior?
Say no.
Say no.
Just
say no.
It's called, it's boundaries, right? Because boundaries are, I got to teach you how to treat me.
Okay.
Right? Opposed to, when we don't heal, we think of everything through lenses that are unreal. So you think of things through lenses and you create perceptions, and people begin to treat you based off those perceptions. So I never want to say no to people. And I've developed this personality trait where I'm always saying yes to everybody because I want to be liked and I want to be needed and I want to feel important. You know, so I say, yes, 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 I got you. No problem. I got you. And then you have not created a boundary of, you know what, sometimes I don't got you because I need to have me. They don't know that. It's like, and it's literally like a drug, because once I started saying no, like my bosses were literally like reaching out to the people who worked under me, like my co-directors. They're like, is she okay? What's wrong with her? Like, she is not herself. But it's like, they didn't know that's not who I was. I wasn't a yes person, and I didn't want to not, you know, I didn't want to be walked over. But you have to create boundaries. You have to reteach people how to teach you. The real people will stick with you. The fake people, they're just going to fall off because they're going to feel disgusted that you realize your worth. And, you know, when you know your worth, you know, I can't give from an empty cup all the time. I shouldn't give from an empty cup because it's dangerous. It's dangerous for everybody, because eventually one of these days I'm gonna flip out on somebody. Somebody's gonna get the wrath of me giving from nothing. Or if you don't take it out on somebody, you're gonna take it out on yourself. You'll become an alcoholic. You'll take that void and you'll start filling it. You'll fill it with something, depression, right? Because you've detached yourself from who you really are, because you basically allow people to believe you have the belief that you want to be needed. You have whatever beliefs you have, and you acted in a manner to provide proof to that belief. Like, people need me all the time. Yeah, they need you because you think you need to be needed, and you don't. You need to need yourself.
Looking for validation.
Right. So when you create boundaries, it's just like, people will feel it. And I noticed that there's some people that get so offended, and they're like, who do you think you are? And there's other people who are like, you know what, Eb, I'm happy you're taking care of yourself. Let me know when you can do that.
Yeah. Tell me, what is, you talk a lot about vibrations and sort of frequencies and so on, and sort of people are at certain vibrations. Explain that a little bit, because it almost sounds a little bit, on a scientific level, it sounds almost like string theory. I don't imagine you're talking about string. It is string theory?
It is, because at the core of everything, if we took a really great microscope, super duper microscope, and we put our hands under it, you would see vibrating atoms.
100.
That's just a fact.
100%.
Right?
I'm with you.
There's been experiments. Dr. Hashimoto did an experiment. Have you ever heard of the water experiment?
No, I have not.
So the water experiment pretty much was, he took glasses of water and he wrote on them. He exposed some of them to music. Like, some of them had hard rock music. Some of them had classical music. Some of them had love written on the jars. Some had hate. And when he looked at those, those water molecules that were in those test jars, under a microscope, and people can do this at home. There's something called the rice experiment. I won't explain that one. You can just do it yourself and see the proof of vibration. But basically, when they looked at the water molecules, the ones that said love, the water molecules looked like snowflakes, like beautiful formed snowflakes.
Wow.
But the ones that said hate and the ones that were exposed to like heavy hard rock, metal, because music is a vibration, it looked really distorted. The one that said hate, it looked really distorted. So what does that tell us? That words, whether you write them, speak them, think them, we are vibration. And when we are not aligned with saying the right things, doing the right things, thinking the right things, you vibrate at a level of what's going to be attracted to you. So I always explain this. I'm a visual person, so I always have analogies. So my analogy I've always told people is think of vibrations like a building, right? You are all in the building of life. And there's one elevator that's accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter what floor you're on. It doesn't matter how poor you are, how rich you are. There's one elevator. And anybody can get on the elevator. An elevator is what? Elevation, knowledge, learning, right? So basically, if you're on level 1, you know, this is just being accountable for our experiences and see what we attract. So this goes into the law of attraction and vibration, right? So if I'm on level 1 and all I experience is loss, drama, struggle, that's because on level 1, that's all that exists on level 1. So until you take a little bit more accountability and you're like, you know, maybe I did attract this into my experience. You know, maybe I should learn a little bit more so I can just elevate my vibration a little bit and believing that there's a little more possibilities. Life isn't just all about struggle. And even if it's about struggle, like life has hills and valleys, right? You change the mindset. Opposed to like, why me? Why am I here? Bad things always happen to me. Nothing good ever happens to me. Everybody up there on those floors, they're so lucky. They're so lucky. So basically, you can elevate as high as you want, and there's no hierarchy. It doesn't mean that because you're on the top floor, you are better than the bottom floor. It's just you've elevated what you know. So the more you know, the more you grow, and you get to go up in levels, right?
So that knowledge sort of increases and changes your perception of reality in a sense.
And I think that helped me when I started creating that analogy. I was like, wow, because, you know, one of the things I suffered from is, you know, looking down upon people in a way of like, oh, you don't know that, especially as a teenager, you know, or like a young adult. I'd like, you don't know that? Like, how don't you know that? And, you know, this perception of age equals wisdom, not true. That everybody understands levels, and it's like a level in life is not a hierarchy. You don't, just because I make more money or just because I know more in a hierarchy level, I'm not more than you. I'm not better than you. I'm just more aware. I'm just more in tune. That can't make me better than you. I'm more aware and you are not. And it's my job to at least share with you what I know. And then if you are close to the floor that I'm on, that's the only way people can understand you. So this is the other reason why it helped me too, because if I'm on level 10, one of the things that we get really wrong in life is we're on level 10 and maybe the people on 9 and 8, you could share some messages with, maybe even level 7. They'll be like, you could talk some stuff to them. And they're like, all right, Hans, I hear you, I see you, like I feel you, but you can tell there's a disconnect because they're not really applying it to their life like they should. They're kind of applying it. How
do you keep yourself from losing hope when you deal with stuff like that? Because sometimes I almost feel like even when I started this channel, my first 2 videos the first one was the importance of honesty, which is huge with me. And in a world of dishonesty, I realize I'm fighting against the wind. And then the second one is the golden rule, my 2 philosophies in life. Those videos have next to no views. So as time went along, I sort of, what do I do to get people to watch my platform? So we do more funny videos and so on, but I still try to interweave my messages in between there. But sometimes it's hard to not lose sort of hope and sort of that drive to be like, yeah, let me continue to try to show people some of these things that I've learned that may help them. When you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with being on that level and sort of people are in maybe 3 levels, 4 or 5 levels below where your knowledge base is at, how do you stay motivated to keep still trying to reach them?
Well, so kind of like I was saying, is like it helped me to stop trying to help them.
Mm.
You understand? So like as a coach, automatically, when somebody comes to me and the minute we start talking, I can already tell if you could work with me or not.
Mm.
Because I can't serve a certain level. At a certain level, you will not find value. That's why, in the coaching world, the amount of money people pay you has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with results. If I think about it, if you pay $70,000 for a car, you're probably going to value that car a lot more than the car you paid $700 for, right or wrong.
Absolutely true.
So with coaches, we know that if I charge $10,000 for this program, people who are at that level, who understand that level of investment and believe in me and the value that I put out, they're going to pay it, eyes closed, right?
Mm.
If Oprah said, hey, listen, you can sit down with me, but in order to sit down with me, I'll give you all the knowledge you need. I'll teach you how to run your business. I'll give you the blueprint. You got 20 minutes. You're like, all right, well, how much is that 20 minutes? She's like, 20 million bucks. No brainer, because you're like, she's Oprah.
Mm.
Right?
Okay.
She's created a sense of value. So with you creating a sense of value, you can't, for me, I don't, I've left the realm of, I'm not superwoman. So I have to just speak my truth, and I have to just keep vibrating higher and higher and higher, because when you vibrate higher, you become the light, literally. So just like a bug, people gravitate to you, and they're just like, oh my God, you're so cool. And I just love your vibe. You just have this energy. And you're like, yeah, because I work on it every day, like this is a thing, but it's like, I think there's a part of us that has to release. I think the hope part becomes, we feel really bad. We begin to feel bad. And to me, I used to feel bad for all the people I couldn't help. And I've had coaches that are like that. Like, I feel so bad because there's all these people I can't help. And it's like, no, you create free content. Like the highest tier of my business model is being able to get one-on-one coaching with me.
Mm.
If I'm talking about some real stuff for free on Facebook, I've just coached you for free.
Mm.
I've given you value. So it's understanding your value and knowing that you're putting out that vibration anyways. And I had to let go of knowing that there are some levels that cannot get what I'm talking about, because the density of what they have to go through to interpret and integrate what I'm saying is too much. At a human level, at a God level, they get it. That's why quote pages have the most likes. If I was just a quote page, boom, I would be booming. But I'm not. That's why the good quote has 3 million followers, because that tells me at a soul level, you get it. At a human level, you don't. Why don't you? Because the levels that you have to go through to interpret that, you have to change your habits. You have to read more books. You have to get around more people that are saying the same thing. If you just see Ebony on Facebook whenever she goes live, and she's your only form of knowledge base, all your friends around you do ratchet stuff. All the people around you, maybe they don't do ratchet stuff and they're just unaware. They don't really care. Everybody goes home. They work from 9 to 5. They go home, they eat their chips, they eat their meal, they sit down, they have shallow conversations about nothing and no one or people. They have levels of lenses that they have to go through. Like they might have on 10 pair of glasses that they have to begin taking off in order to see you at level 10. You're at level 10, but you got on like 1 pair of glasses. Imagine wearing 10 pairs of glasses and you have to take off unworthiness. You have to take off, I don't care what other people think. I'm going to take off tragedy. I'm going to take, like, there's people who think the world is a bad place to live. They think that all we're meant to do is to work and die. All we're meant to do is live the American dream, which is you grow up in a great home, you go to school, that's great. You go to college, that's great. You have a family, that's great. You buy a house, that's great. You buy a car, that's great. Get a little bit of money, travel a little bit, you know, hang out with your friends, go to the golf course, like go to the pub every once in a blue. And it's like, that doesn't touch the soul level of why we're here. Right? Because what it does is it doesn't involve other people. It doesn't involve elevating other people. It doesn't involve giving back in any way. And even for those who give back a little bit, you know, it's just the depth of who we are created to be is so, I mean, like, who we are meant to be is just so deep that it takes a lot of understanding to move in that strength, that light, that vision, you know. So I feel like you can never lose hope because you're not meant to help everyone.
Right. Absolutely.
But if you help someone, and to me, I get messages that keep me going. I get signs that keep me going. And to me, I've had to release that want to just help everybody, because you can't help people who don't want to be helped, you know. And if you have a truth and you are inspired to do what you do, then there's a greater vision that you can't even see.
Right.
And the minute you give up and you lose hope, you'll never manifest that vision, because your podcast could eventually turn into something way bigger than you ever conceptualized, and you can't see that vision. You're not meant to see that vision. It's kind of like, who was that, Martin Luther King, who said that? Like, you don't have to see the whole staircase, but you need to walk, you need to move, right? So to me, that's why we shouldn't lose hope, is because you can't help everybody, and that's just, it's not a bad thing. It's just the way that it is. And some people don't want to be helped, and it's draining to, if you were at the top and you decided to go all the way to the ground floor, like, I'm going to help everybody come back, you'd never make it back up.
Yeah. Wow.
You would never make it back up, because the depth of where they're at, they're encumbered with so many different lenses that they would pretty much either talk you into staying there because they need so much help, or you'd be like, F this, like, y'all figure that shit out on your own, because I don't have the energy, and I'm going to be depleted giving to something that's just going to drain my life force. And that's what I feel like those levels are. And it's not a judgment thing. I think we judge levels. That's why I look at the building as, and I always say, we all have access to the elevator. So when you understand that, you can't lose hope, because if the people beneath, you're not judging them, they're not beneath you because they're less than, they're beneath you because they're choosing not to know more. They're choosing not to seek. They're choosing not to follow their own breadcrumbs, their own inklings, and that's not your problem. You followed yours, and the more you elevate, now you're going to get around people who are elevating you and bringing you up to higher levels. So it's just like a domino effect. It's like you need to rise, not to keep losing hope because you're looking at the people beneath you, but you're like, damn, I wonder about all those people who are up there. Like, what are they doing? I want to go to those parties up there. I want to know what they know, so that I can feel more whole, so I can feel more free, right? We're in bondage financially because many of us are, when you are, poverty mindset is a place and a mindset. Because when you're physically there, you have no money to pay the bills. It's really hard to practice the law of attraction in a positive way. I'll say that, you know. And I've been through all those things, and it's challenging, you know. But when you're in those circumstances and you know enough, and you say, God is my instant supply, my needs are met, and you just keep repeating it, and you come up with your own mantras, and you're like, no, this is not real. I can really think my way through that, and that this is a possibility, that I am given the power to think and create thoughts that create things. Then you change the game in your own life. When you begin to see that, you're like, oh my God, this magical stuff really works. Jay-Z said it. He said it in one of his raps. This magical stuff really works. Alhamdulillah. You know, I pray to them all, right? So it's like, they all get it. All the celebrities, most of them all get it, you know.
Yeah, they understand something that a lot of us don't.
I mean, they understand a whole lot of other stuff that I really don't want to know either. However, you know, it's just, you know, you just got to keep going. And you're like, because you have people who are going to reach you. You have people you're going to reach. But it's just, I just want to keep joining the parties. And if you didn't jump on the elevator that you have access to too, I feel bad for you, son. I got 95 problems with the elevator.
Man, you are flowing. You are flowing. And speaking of flowing, your cup is overflowing. But, Ebony, how do you stay balanced? On a physical level, on the ground, what do you do for exercise? How do you eat?
Yeah, so I eat, I feel like I was fasting before that was like really a diet. If you look up Dr. Sebi, you've heard of Dr. Sebi?
I have not. I've not heard of Dr. Sebi.
Dr. Sebi, Sebi. He was a Black doctor who, oh my God, he was a visionary because he cured people of different diseases like AIDS, crazy things that everyone's like, there's no cure for, with herbs and plant medicine. But one of his diets that he teaches is you're not really supposed to eat till about noon because that's when your body is finished processing food and it's ready to take on new food. And then when you eat food, you should basically eat a plant-based diet because when you're eating animals, you're eating dead flesh, which is what it is. And I'm not judging it because I still eat chicken and I still have steaks and stuff every once. I eat steak like once in a blue. But for the most part, my diet is mostly plant and fruit-based. I love fruit. I recently, other than that, I definitely drink a good amount of water. I don't really drink juices and stuff like that. I drink ginger. I love ginger ale every once in a blue. I love ginger ale. I think it's
me too.
It's like a Black people staple.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're sick. Did you have any ginger ale?
Yeah, ginger ale. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Or ginger. You make ginger tea and things like that.
Yes, exactly. I definitely love teas. But more than anything, I recently started this detox tea, which helped to. And I think eventually I've been a vegan before. I want to go back to that because I definitely I've felt the difference of being vegan and being in more alignment with more of a plant and fruit and vegetable based diet.
Okay.
Energy wise, health wise, and pretty much what happens is your gut determines your gut is telling you what to eat, right? Your gut develops bacteria and microbes and all these different things that will crave the carbohydrates, that will crave the meat. I think even still I think I've heard that men should have a good amount of iron, like as a man, because you have a different makeup than a woman. So it's very different. And I think culturally it's different for different people because even genetically we're made up differently to a degree. But I basically take a detox tea every single day. I also use a multivitamin with that. I use some energy stuff. It's all natural. Everything in it is organic. So that's what I've been doing to make sure I exercise because I have to have the energy. Actually, when I get off this with you, I'm going to exercise just like 20, 30 minutes a day. Okay. I think a lot of us avoid exercising, but anytime you do exercise, you feel good about yourself, but you actually have more energy than you had when you started out.
Yes, absolutely. And it builds you up, makes you stronger, so you have more energy for when you need it.
Yeah, so I've been doing this detox tea from a company called Total Life Changes. I really love it. But most of my diet is just very plant-based. Like yesterday I had Beyond sausage, which is like a soy-based sausage, which you should try. It really does taste
yeah. So truth be told, I am going vegan slowly but surely myself.
Awesome.
And the missus is fully vegan. So
nice.
I thoroughly enjoy me some vegan food, and I do have Beyond sausages every once in a while.
Oh my God, aren't they amazing?
Oh yeah, they're great. It's amazing how close to regular sausages that it tastes.
Yeah, because I try everything. I've even tried. Have you tried the Just Egg?
We have that in the fridge.
Do you like it?
I do like it. We'll use it if we're making like sometimes if you're making like a baked rice pudding or something. If Jay is making rice pudding or something like that, she'll put the Just Egg in there, and it's a great substitute.
Yeah. So I mean that's pretty much my diet. I think. When you eat better, you feel better. And this is the thing. Let's go back to energy. Because I think this discussion is everything's intertwined. we take the human experience and we start subtracting things out of it. We separate everything. We separate religion. We separate prayer. We separate all these things, and they're just like in their own little pockets, but they're not. Because when you don't feel great about yourself, you typically eat poorly. It's just a fact, right?
100.
It's just a fact. When you don't feel good, you're not like, yo, let me go eat that salad, man. I would love a salad right now. You're like, yo, I need a burger. I need some fries. Let me get some milkshake. Like, I want everything, you know? So it's really all connected. And the more you feel better and you fuel your body with the things that it likes, that it needs to be healthy and nutritious, I mean, like, it keeps it full circle of like, I'm inspired. I feel good. I have energy, you know, all these different things. It's really important.
I love that you're saying so many things that not only I believe in myself, but things that people have heard me say, and it's good to have, to some sense, validation from someone like yourself in those thoughts. So I don't sound quite so kooky.
Great. Oh, I'm sure I sound crazy to a lot of people too. Listen, I get it.
You're definitely different. Wonderfully different.
I get it.
So have you? Once this is over, but do you plan to travel? Or I mean, have you been anywhere interesting outside of this Northeast and Florida and things like that? Have you been to other countries?
Oh my God. Sadly, I've only been to Canada, which to me is like, you know, Canada's
I love Canada
United
though.
States.
I love Canada. They're so nice. I might move to Canada.
They're so nice. They're cool, you know, but it's not like, oh yeah, I went to Jamaica. I definitely want to go to Jamaica. I definitely want to go to hands down Africa.
St. Lucia. You got to go to St. Lucia.
Yeah. All right. So I add that to the list. I definitely want to go.
Drive-in volcano. Okay. Drive-in volcano. Sulphur Springs. Imagine taking a bath in a natural jacuzzi in a sense. It's sort of like with a warm waterfall coming on top of you from a volcano.
And I love jacuzzis. And it's probably very much more healthy for the body as well. Yes, I'll definitely add that. I mean, I definitely want to travel a lot. I feel like that's part of the human experience is you should see different things because it's God's glory.
Yes.
It's just God's glory on this earth. And to think like he made all of this, he or she, however you see it, he made all of this and you as well. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, and we admire those things. They admire us. Like, the mountains admire us. We are the ones that can think, feel, touch, hug, love. Like, they admire us.
And we can move them, too.
There you go.
They can't move us, but we can move them. We can burn, we can blow holes right through them if you want to. And they're so big and strong.
Right, exactly. So I definitely I'm going to put St. Lucia on my list.
Yeah, St. Lucia's a beautiful country.
I'm a little biased. I definitely want to visit a lot of places with people of color, not just because there's people of color there, but I think I had an African friend, and I remember realizing how ignorant I was. I was like 19 or 20, and my friend was from Africa, and I was like, do y'all walk around with like no shoes on? And he looked at me, and he came from like African royalty. Like his father was like in the government, and he'd never washed dishes before. They had maids in their house. Like he wasn't like poor African, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so he was like appalled, like looking at me like, is this what y'all think? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just ignorant. Like, just school me, just teach me. I felt so embarrassed. I was like, I can't believe I just said that out loud.
Not only is places like St. Lucia and Guyana literally in between America and Africa, but we're also literally in between America and Africa in culture. Because it was amazing to first of all, a lot of our dances down there are African dances that we still do. A lot of our colors, we're very colorful. Have you noticed in the islands we love color?
Definitely.
We have that in common with Africa, and that's where that comes from. That's where that color. Our culture is very pervasive. African culture is very pervasive, and still rings true in the Caribbean. We still tell African stories. We have a story of the spider god Bera Nancy that comes from West Africa. It comes from Nigeria and countries like that. And we still teach these stories in school. I remember having to read books on African history. When I grew up in St. Lucia and in Guyana, I learned about African culture. Okay, I have young kids here that I'm raising, and they don't know anything about African culture at all. It's not taught in their
Mm,
schools. Okay.
mm.
So once again, St. Lucia, go to the Caribbean.
I
Just
will. Yeah, I
yes, we
definitely will.
still love our African culture, and we mix and match because we have a lot of Indian culture as well because a lot of Indian people there, and I love Indian culture
Mhm.
as well. So,
Mhm.
truth be told, my mother is 25% Indian, so I do have Indian blood in me as
Mm.
well. But yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of people of culture of color down there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of black people. Like we're a majority. When I grew up, um, black people are a majority and
Mm.
stuff like that. So I grew up in that culture where everybody sort of looked like you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
So
Definitely.
Africa is definitely on the list as well. I am going to go to Africa, and I want to see all the countries there and
Me too.
stuff like. I want to see where my ancestors came from. So
Mhm. And I
it's
always see
definitely.
Ethiopian girls. I've seen. There's been times I was like
You
in
look
New York
Ethiopian, by
City.
the way.
I do, and
Yeah.
the people would always ask me, and I always was like puzzled, like what? And then I was like in a room with a bunch of Ethiopian girls, and I was like, sisters,
Yeah.
like, and that's the crazy thing that people don't know about Africa, just black culture is you have black people with blue eyes that are dark.
Yeah.
You have black
Beautiful.
people with blonde hair, and we are so ignorant because we don't
Yeah.
know these things. We haven't been
Yeah.
taught these things that we think it began with Caucasian culture, white
Yeah.
culture,
Yeah.
and it's not, but it's just such a beautiful thing. I totally cannot wait to just see other places and to feel their culture and to really, really travel because I'm really just Americanized, and I
Hmm.
definitely want to get out of the U.S. See
With
some
your
things.
open mind that you already have, you're going to enjoy it. That's really how I'm going to finish off. I literally have the rest of my life planned out. Well, not the rest. Well, yeah, pretty much the rest of my life planned out, and that is how I want to finish it off. Is by being in a different place, a different land, because
Definitely.
these lines we see on this map were not given to us by God or by nature.
No.
They were written by men and they were drawn by men,
Yep.
and I choose
Yep.
to ignore them.
For sure.
That's why
Yes,
I have
for
three
sure.
different flags on my platform, and that's why I plan to travel. It's the number one thing, really and
Mm.
truly. When this podcast has some success and so on, I'm gonna leave it to other people, and I'm disappearing because I know
Mm.
exactly what I want to be doing. I want to
Yeah.
travel. I want to experience the world. I want to volunteer, and I want
Mm-hmm.
before I pass away. Number one on my bucket list is experiencing this beautiful planet that we're on, that we take
Yeah.
advantage of.
Yes, we do. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So much success.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Definitely.
So we've come on a long journey for the last 2 hours, and it's been wonderful. But please tell me, if you could speak to yourself from 15 years ago, what would you say to her? 10 to 15 years ago.
Oh my gosh. 10 to 15 years ago. Yes, I was like right around the time. I would have told myself to trust my intuition because I've always been so in tune. I've
You
always
have
been so
wonderful
in
intuition.
tune. Thank you. I mean, even at a young age, I remember just having really great intuition. But I was so easily persuaded because I didn't feel good enough. And I had a lot of daddy, like that was around the time when like daddy issues were like coming to the forefront because my father was in jail for most of my life and he ended up getting out around like I was like 12, 13. So it just began that's when it really was just like, and then he got out and he was kind of around me. I thought he'd be around me and then he just wasn't. And he was like doing other things and like the hurt started to really, get like stirred up quite a bit. I mean, I would tell her to love herself. I would tell her you're amazing, you're phenomenal. Um, but I definitely would have told her to trust your intuition and to stay focused on yourself and love yourself so much that you need nothing or no one. And not from a selfish perspective, because I think learning selfishness with love is such a beautiful thing. But I would have shared that message because I think if I would have just stayed focused and just horse with the blinders on of trusting, my destiny. I had so many great experiences and I don't want to say I threw them away, but I definitely made a lot of left turns. A lot of left turns. It's even a blessing that I'm here right now,
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
Okay. And if you could look into that looking glass into the future, and where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Um, I know I was just meant to impact millions of people. I was definitely meant to, share stages and just to be on stages talking to millions of people. That's been my destiny. I've known that since I was probably about 15, that I was meant to be a motivational speaker. Um, I see myself traveling. I see myself married to a wonderful man. I might even have two more babies, I think.
Okay.
Um, and really just living my most divine life. I definitely see myself, within 15 years, in the next, like for the next 15 years, I'm going hard, to the point where in the next 15 years, I can just sit back and build in different ways that are more legacy. I am building right now for legacy, but at that point, way more legacy building. I desire to be a professor at an old age, and to teach and to have schools, and headquarters for my Queens Recognized Queens. I want to have a headquarters. I see that being something where I can open different, at least two other headquarters in other places where I'm able to teach young girls. I really love working with the youth, because I think they're still susceptible. They're very open, more open than adults who become very closed. But the visions, I mean, when I think about it, I just get so happy because I know
I can
that
feel it.
it
I
just
can't
it's
see it. I can feel it.
unfolding. Yeah, it's just an unfolding of such greatness. And I don't say that like in any shrinking way because or even boastful way, but I just know that God said you're gonna be on stages, you're gonna speak to people. And it scared me because it seems so big and it's intimidating. It's been intimidating for me, but the more that I heal and the more I operate in my wholeness, I'm not afraid because it's kind of like when they say, when God's got you, who's against you? It's just like, this
Yes.
is what God told me to do. And I just listen. So I can't be wrong. And whenever I see is real and it's meant to happen. But I definitely see myself just impacting millions of people. I have a way to connect with people that I never thought was really that special, as I see now. Like now that we're in these times and I can teach people how to meditate and I can do that for people. And I'm the one that people are like, because of you, I began meditating. And because of you, I did this. And because of you, I never thought it would create that much impact. And going back to what you said, that's why it's so important to speak your truth and to do what you have, that God called you to do, because it's not about you, it's about other people. And the minute you shut your light down and you say, I'm not going to speak because I'm too afraid, I'm worried about what people think, you just kill off like a whole generation of people that needed you specifically.
Thank you for inspiring me.
No doubt.
Where can people find you, Ebony?
So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Queens Recognize Queens. I'm also on Instagram at I am Ebony Tutora, although I'm not on there as much. I'm mostly on Queens Recognize Queens, queensrecognizequeens.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful conversation. Very uplifting, very enlightening.
Thank you.
And I do
I
mean that.
appreciate it.
This has been one of the most amazing podcasts I've done so far. And
Oh, thank you.
I thank you for joining me on
I
this
thank
episode.
you.
It's
Yes,
nice
let's
to meet
thank
you.
Joe. Thank you.
Yes,
You
I
as well.
thank you, Joe. Big shout out. And Joe
For
and I are going to
sure.
work together in the future anyway. So
Awesome.
all right.
Awesome.
Okay. So you take care and enjoy your workout.
Thank you.
Oh, before you go, what's
you.
that tattoo on your right wrist mean? Is that a flower?
Which one? This one.
Yeah. What is that?
Nope. So I got two, and then I have the Eye of Horus. I actually did this one myself. I need to get it fixed up.
Okay.
But this is a butterfly. I have
It's a butterfly
here.
Yeah. On the side. I see it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Emmy. That's my first daughter, which obviously I have 4 kids now, so I got to get tattoos for all of them, which I probably won't because I don't think I want.
You're going to have a full
But
sleeve.
I also have a butterfly on my neck. Butterflies represent evolution, and it's just that's life. It's like it's the evolution of caterpillar to a butterfly multiple times, multiple, many times.
I feel a little guilty for saying this, but we're kindred spirits. You say a lot of the things that I say, and you've taught me a lot, and I see things from your perspective. And once again, I appreciate you for joining me. And you take
Yes,
care.
thank you so much. Thank you, you too. Thank
All right,
you.
have a good
All
night.
right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Please search on YouTube for Just a Thought Vlog and follow us on social media.